Beautiful evening out here. I'm just going for a hike, and I wanted to take a quick second to talk about something that's been challenging for me to understand, but I've been coming to a more thorough comprehension of recently, which I think has been very beneficial in a lot of ways, and that is self-love. And the first time anybody mentioned self-love to me, it seemed exceptionally cringy. I was the kind of person who, you talk about doing like affirmations in the mirror or something, and you're like, that sounds like the dumbest thing I have ever heard of. Even trying to do an affirmation in the mirror, you feel like this is bullshit. There's no way this is true. You're like, you just kind of cringe at even saying like, oh, I love you in the mirror. But actually, in a strange way, that very cringe that you experience when you think of self-love or doing affirmations in the mirror or anything like that, that very cringy reaction actually points the way to freedom. And that is what I have discovered in myself lately. That is because the cringing reaction or the, oh wait, no, that's ridiculous, each of those reactions will reveal the underlying beliefs that you actually have about yourself. We're gonna break this down into 3 steps. That first step is awareness and is the most important thing in almost any aspect of self-improvement or self-change or growth or whatever. Without having that first kernel of awareness, it's impossible to change something that you don't know exists, right? So the 2 aspects of awareness we're going to talk about, that first step, 2 bullet points. Point 1 is taking those triggers, those moments where if you try and have affirmations for yourself or whatever, or those moments in time when you notice thought patterns for yourself that you're like, why do I think that? Why do I feel that way about myself? What does that actually point to on a deeper level about me? What is the underlying theme that is being revealed that I am seeing or experiencing as this external factor? That's part leads into the second thing, which is what other people say or do that triggers you. When people make you upset or angry, nobody can make you upset. Nobody can make you angry. I realize that sounds complicated and kind of backwards, but what people can do is reveal the anger or fear or whatever emotion is inside of us. This is one of the most transformative things you can ever learn. And that is that nobody can make you feel anything. They can only reveal the emotions and the way that you feel about yourself. So whenever you say, I hate the way that so-and-so talks about me, they make me feel like terrible about myself. Okay, so-and-so might be a jerk. I'm not disputing that. But what I am saying is that so-and-so being a jerk actually is an opportunity for you to realize what you think about yourself on a deep, deep level. Because let's say so-and-so said, I hate your pink car. And you're like, I don't have a pink car. It wouldn't hurt your feelings, right? But if so-and-so says, I hate your new haircut and you're ugly and nobody's ever gonna love you, that is going to reveal something within you. It's going to reveal something that you might already think and is now being expressed out in the open world, right? That is an incredibly powerful tool you can use to integrate moments of finding where you're not expressing self-love. All of these things where so-and-so says something that triggers you might be pointing to something you actually think about yourself. So if somebody says, well, your business is gonna fail, you'll never succeed, you'll never find love, and that hurts and stings on a deep level, that reveals your own doubts, that reveals your own thought process that is actually within you. It's not that other person's thing. If you didn't believe them, it would be like the pink car. You'd be like, I don't drive a pink car. Who cares? It's not insulting for you to insult something that I don't have. But if you call out something that I identify with, very painful, right? So where this connects back to self-love is that if you have a deep love for yourself, then those things that other people say won't trigger you very much. So that's why that first step is so important. That awareness reveals those areas where we do not actually on a fundamental level love or approve of ourselves. We are, to an extent, rejecting ourselves. Plain. That might be loud, I don't know. And if we are fundamentally rejecting ourselves on a consistent basis, even if it's on a small level, that explains why we're often not very happy in life, why we might not feel fulfilled. The world doesn't necessarily need to put us down and make us feel bad. The world can only point out the doubts that we already have. So the second step, once we've become aware of a few of these patterns, we're noticing things that trigger us, things that people say that make us feel like, oh, I'm not good enough. We need to analyze why at a fundamental level we have these belief systems and these structures within ourselves that react and flare up when other people say things or when we say things about ourselves. This is a good exercise. Look in the mirror and say, I love you. And if you hear a little voice saying, yeah, right, that's bullshit, you're a fuck up, you can't do it, sign you got some inner work to do. Not actually, though, a sign that you're a fuck up or that you can't do it. That's all in your head. Look inward, say, well, what's the evidence? What evidence is there that I am fundamentally a screw up? You say, oh, well, of all these things I've made a mistake, all these things I could have done different, or I should have been this, or I should have done that, or this should have gone a certain way. They're all just ideas. They're all just thought patterns. For many of us, these stories go back all the way to our childhood, where we might have had an experience with our parents or with a teacher or somebody or a situation where we felt less than enough. We felt like, I am inherently unlovable, or I am inherently not good enough, right? Traumatizing feelings for a little kid. They're traumatizing to an extent for an adult, but they're especially traumatizing to a little child because you are physically incapable of surviving on your own. So if you are outcast by your family or your tribe, you will basically die. So as a child, these feelings of inadequacy or fundamental unlovableness, or I did something wrong, those ideas are very threatening to your identity. They are threatening to your life, and they are stored as such in your memory banks. Those crystallize into beliefs about ourselves that we then go forth and interpret everything that happens in our life through this filter where we have those beliefs. Let's say 5 years later, you're still a little kid, but you're on the playground and some of your friends say, oh, we don't want to play with you today. They run away and go play with somebody else, right? Let's look at the objective fact of what happened, not interpretation, fact. Some kids went over there, right? That's what happened. That's reality. Interpretation in little Timmy's head is, okay, it's because I'm fundamentally unlovable. I must have done something wrong so that all of my friends didn't want to play with me today because I'm a fuck up. I'm a screw up. I can't do it right. This is more proof. Then we repeat that over and over through our life. Now, 10 years later, Timmy's girlfriend leaves him, right? And Timmy's gonna say, you know what? There's more evidence. Objectively, what happened? Girl was here, now is gone. She might have moved countries. She might have gone to a different school. 100 things could have happened. Timmy's interpretation, it's because I'm broken, it's because I'm wrong. Building up evidence to support the story, that fundamental story. The analysis we have to do is go back and understand that these interpretations we have assigned to follow-up events, these stories are just that. They are a flawed, warped interpretation of objective reality. What happened versus the emotional charge we have applied to it, right? And then the third step is to let go, because when you get to the bottom of the analysis, you realize that there is no problem. There is nothing wrong with you. There's nothing inherently flawed about you as a person that makes you unlovable. The very fact that a voice says, oh, you're a screw up, you're unlovable, you can't do those affirmations without feeling like a clown because look at you, who do you think you are to talk in the mirror like you have your shit together? You're just a human like everybody else. You've gone through experiences like everybody else, but they get filtered through a mental interpretation, they get filtered through a warped lens that then shapes the thoughts, feelings, and actions we take in the world as a reaction to the story we inherently believe about ourselves. We go out in the world, we will either compensate or succumb to those stories. So if we believe on a fundamental level we are worthless, we will either likely exist as if we are worthless and have very low self-esteem, very low aspirations, maybe become addicted to substances to kind of cope, or we can push against it. You see people who are work addicts who have all the money in the world, but they are miserable. It's not about the money, it's about the money is a coping mechanism because they still have that internal feeling of worthlessness, right? They're just trying to compensate for it by saying, no, if I get all these things, then they'll love me. If I get all these things, then I'll be good enough. Let go of the story that you need to be good enough. It's all based on a twisted thought pattern that has no fundamental truth. Who's to say that anybody is inherently good enough or not good enough or worthy of love? It's a stupid idea. And yet, it is a fundamental issue that affects almost every single person on earth because we're all human. We all make mistakes. We're all flawed. We all do things. But to say that that is an extrapolation to make us fundamentally unlovable is just ridiculous. So how to love yourself, how to cultivate that self-love is to realize you don't need to. What you need to do is let go of all the bullshit that's telling you you're unlovable in the first place. So the affirmation thing, why are that silly, is you end up with people speaking it in the mirror over and over and over, trying to speak it into existence or whatever, but they don't believe it. They just feel like they're lying to themselves in the mirror over and over. Where that's good is it does reveal, wait, why do I feel like this is a lie? Because that is the actual lie. The lie is that you're unworthy, or that you can't do it, or that you're not good enough. Those are all based in that twisted thought form that says, I can't do it, I'm not good enough because of this one time I screwed everything up and I've always felt like I'm unlovable because of this. I'm not saying all of that doesn't feel complicated or isn't complicated mentally, but it's all based in this warped, twisted knot of emotions and thoughts that has nothing at the end. Once you undo the entire knot, it's just gone. It just disperses because it's based on a lie. So awareness, analysis, and then just letting go of that story, letting go of the attachment to that past persona that needed to compensate or felt not good enough in the first place. That's not to say you won't have maybe some habits you need to overcome, and it might take a little bit. It's not like it's just like, but you need to realize that at a fundamental level, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. So compensating for brokenness is just reinforcing the idea that you're broken in the first place. We're all just human. We all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect, but nobody also needs to be perfect. And the idea that people compensate, like perfectionism, trying to do everything perfect, never make any mistakes, never show any weakness, is all to hide that inner feeling that they're not enough. If you feel like you're enough, it doesn't fucking matter if you make a mistake because it's not a fundamental reflection on you. You can be good enough and still make a mistake. That's okay. But that's really hard for a lot of us to accept internally because of the way our programming has been built up. So that's the spiel on self-love. If you want a little bit more in-depth, check out this video right here on letting go. It goes more into the letting go process and how we can kind of begin to cleanse the more emotional patterns, because it's easy to understand this stuff on a logical level, but application to like your emotional reactionary state can be different. So check out that video on letting go. We will see you next time. Thanks for watching.